Hey y'all, hey, we are back for another review of Sisters. We're on season 10, episode 2, entitled Guilty. So aptly titled, as everyone is kind of feeling guilty about everything that's happening with Sabrina and the roles that they may or may not have played and how they interacted with her historically, blah, blah, blah. Let's just move on. I'm just going to preface this by saying my levels was a little bit low. I've had quite a few cocktails. Shout out to Don't Know Dad here on YouTube. You know, got me drunk, y'all. You know, got me drunk. Either way, let's move on. Let's just move on. We are reeling around the news that Sabrina's at the hospital, and that she's been in this horrible car accident. So we are all kind of dealing with the emotions with that. Everybody knows that it's really bad and it's touch and go, and Dr. Vaughn sees him at the hospital, and you know, he tells them that he will update them as much as he can, trying to be as helpful. Everybody's trying to be helpful, and this is what we're going through in this episode. Sabrina's fighting for her life, and out of everything that's going on, Tony thinks that this is a fine time to remind Danny that it's over between them. I guess he got a phone call, may have been from Mr. Officer or whatever his name is, and he reminds her like, oh yeah, even though we got all this going on, this is still over between us. And so Zach and Andy has to let him know, like, listen, time and place, whatever y'all got going on right now is not what we focusing our energy on. We'll deal with that later. Leave her alone, because it just ain't the time. Okay. Danny is down on Sabrina's paperwork as her next of kin because she was raised by her grandmother, assuming she doesn't have any parents, and her grandmother is also deceased, so her friends are truly her family at this point. So another doctor that is not Dr. Vaughn, he comes in to give them an update on Sabrina's status and tells her that she has a lot of fractures, like a broken leg, femur, a whole lot of stuff, to include a collapsed lung, brain swelling, but they do see some brain activity, which is hopeful news at this stage of the game, right? And so her outlook is going to be day by day, is going to be touch and go. At this point, past making it past tonight, it's touch and go. If she makes it through the night, everything else is going to be touch and go. And if I say touch and go one more time, either way, the outlook is very bleak, and we're all just trying to put out some well wishes to hope Sabrina gets better. The doctor does tell her that she was revived, tell them that she was revived twice at the scene and once she got to the hospital. So she kind of keeps crashing, and we're just trying to manage her the best way we can and just hope for the best. All right. Andy is kind of sitting there, and she ran out of the house before telling her mama what was happening. And so now that she's back home, she's telling her mama, you know, what happened with Sabrina, and how, you know, how everything's going on. And somehow her mama makes the mistake of mentioning, like, hey, things are falling apart. You know, first things with Sabrina, and now Karen leaving, and her mama tells her, like, you know, basically don't rain on her parade. Don't be mad at her for finding her happiness outside of Atlanta, which, okay, cool, sound advice. But somehow the mama does the mental gymnastics to turn this around on Andy and say that Andy is somehow deep down jealous of Karen for finding her happiness away from Atlanta with her man and her kid. And Andy gives us a little moderate crash out, because, girl, if the man comes, the man comes. And about the kids, I already told you I don't even want them. Like, girl, what are we talking about? And this really, again, not time, not place, but whatever. A lot of this episode is really about Andy, her mama, and her sister Cheyenne, and the dynamics of how that's going. So it's not going to be a whole lot of meat and potatoes this episode, but we're getting through it. All right. And then Andy goes on to tell her and Cheyenne that she's leaving tomorrow. Their aunt is going to go back with them. She's headed back to Florida, if I'm not mistaken, to start back up her chemo, try to get her life back on track and everything. And she's like, okay, well, I'll see you and Cheyenne later. And her mom's like, no, ma'am, Cheyenne is staying here with you. Girl, staying where? This my shit. Where's she staying? Anyway, mama tells her that Cheyenne's going to be staying behind with her, and she insists, like, hey, Cheyenne is your sister. She needs to be here with you so that you guys can support each other, and this is the way you guys are going to be able to support me. Sounds good, but girl, we could do this at separate addresses. Either way, her mama tells her that they made arrangements for Cheyenne to stay with her in the meantime, to stay with Andy, and Andy tells him, like, girl, y'all made arrangements for my home, and didn't nobody even bother to ask me, call me, get permission, any of that stuff that really matters. And Cheyenne has the nerve to get upset with Andy. She was like, well, Andy has never really, which we don't get the full flesh out of that. Of course, that'll happen within the season. But she said, oh, wait, what I'm going to imply is, oh, well, Andy has never really been a sister to me anyway. And that might be the point of contention when it comes to Cheyenne and Andy. All right, so Mama seems to have a problem because she's like, well, because Andy's like, girl, this is my house. Cheyenne make no plans. She was like, I see what you're saying, but I see you have all this value for your college friends, but you don't got none of that energy for your own blood sister. Girl, relax. People have it happens every day. People have blood siblings and they don't have as deep a connection with the blood siblings than they do with their chosen sisters. That's okay. That's fine. There's no harm to be done there. It's not like she's sliding Cheyenne in order to be in a relationship with her homegirls from college. Her and Cheyenne just simply don't have that kinship, and that's okay. Anyway, her mama's like, well, what's your big problem with Cheyenne? Like, did something happen between you two guys that I don't know anything about? And maybe it is, but we don't know right now. Maybe not. But Mama is mad that Andy, she's talking through tears, and she tells Andy, like, girl, you already forgot about your sister when you went out to college. And so that's part of, and she was so sad because she really did look up to you. And Andy's like, girl, how you gonna get mad at me for like going off to college and being successful and pursuing my career and making my way in the world? Like, that's the goal. Like, I can't sit up under y'all for the rest of my life. This is just my words, not a direct quote, but girl, I went on and made my way in the world. This is how. So the mama tried to make her feel bad for going off to college. Don't like it, don't appreciate it, but here we are. And then Mama drops the tears again to try to make her feel guilty and tells her, like, hey, I just need you to let Cheyenne stay here until she gets back on her feet. We're just going to go ahead and jump ahead and presume that, okay, Cheyenne is a cast member at this point. So that moved her, and Cheyenne is going to be here. She's going to be the young, wild, and free 25-year-old spirit that is here amongst us. And I just say 25 because I'm just assuming that Andy's 35, and we heard that Cheyenne is 10 years younger than Andy. So she's giving like 20s energy, and Andy might be giving 30s energy. So there's a dynamic there. Even though 20, 25, 35, I mean, there's a lot of life lessons that happens in between there. So I ain't going to say it's not like it's a big difference, but it's enough where you can see it in their personality. So, all right. So we see Andy, and she finally makes the call to Karen to let her know what is happening to Sabrina, because we're not going to wait. Of course, everybody at the hospital said, hey, let's just wait and see what the prognosis is before we call Karen. But that's not the dynamics of how this friend girl group works. And she has to let her girl know. She also has to tell her, like, hey, you and that baby and that man don't need to get on a flight and come back. Y'all just left, but just giving you a heads up on what's going on with our friend. Keep your spirits high. All right. Even in the midst of all of this, Cheyenne has on her good club dress and is headed out for a fun night out on the town. Mind you, when Andy was telling her mom about everything that was happening to Sabrina, Cheyenne was standing in the doorway listening. So it's not like she doesn't know or she hasn't heard what's happening with Sabrina. I just think she don't give a damn. That's my presumption, because I don't know. I can't speak of what I would have done at 25, but I'm gonna make a good guess and say, I'd have just been there with my sister overnight. Like, girl, you just got here. Like, one night not being out on the scene would not have made or broken you, but here we are. Anyway, Cheyenne, and I wrote in my notes here that might be a part of the wedge that is between her and Andy. I don't know if it's an age thing as opposed to a characteristic thing, because you got the oldest daughter syndrome, you got the youngest daughter syndrome. There's a whole lot that's gonna come along with that. And then you got the oldest, which is normally like the parentified figure, and the one that's expected to be the bigger person in all situations, and the one that's here that is expected to bail people out, and that has this implied responsibility. And then you got Cheyenne, who's the youngest, who the rules don't really apply to, and you can see the dynamic, because I think Cheyenne used the curse word in one of the interactions, and then when Andy used the curse word, Mama was like, "Oh, don't you be cussing? What's up with your language?" And she was like, "Well, girl, Cheyenne just dropped the F-bomb. Like, what are we talking about?" So there's a lot of nuance that's going to be happening when it comes between the dynamics of Andy and Cheyenne, and of course that's going to be fleshed out more throughout the season. All right, so Cheyenne's ass is down to what appears to be the bar, and she meets this man, and I don't know if they went to another location. I'm assuming they went to another location, but it looks very Diddy Party-esque. Like, girl, there's a bed in the middle of the party, and Cheyenne is in there hooking up with a girl and the man she met at the party, and she might be off of some kind of substance because she was real free. If you catch my drift, so we're gonna assume that that's gonna be the party that ends her up in jail, because we see in the previews for next week, well, this week because it's Monday already, child, but in the upcoming episode where she's gonna end up in jail, child, and I don't know if the drugs got the best of her or whatever's going on, but we're just gonna have to deal with trying to bail Cheyenne out while dealing with everything else that Andy has to manage during this time. So yeah, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. It's not a whole lot to talk about. You know, everybody's kind of back home overnight, kind of waiting on the dynamics to kind of see what the prognosis is going to be for Sabrina and what the outlook is going to be. So we'll deal with that when we get to it. But we do see in the projections for the next episode where Mr. Officer is trying to talk to Danny and she peels off and he gets upset. And what y'all think? Do y'all think Mr. Officer is going to be like the new Gary? I don't know. I don't like it. We don't really need another Gary. I think there's another way to do that without giving like the stalker type energy, but here we are. And I say the stalker type energy because we see what she already sped away from him in the previews, but we also see when he shows up at her apartment and it almost looks like he pushed his way in because he wants to talk to her and he wants to see her again. So yeah, so we're gonna have to deal with him a lot more within the season. Either way, that's been season 10, episode 2. Let me know what you think about the episode. Again, not much there to go off of, but more things will flesh out within the season. Let's talk about it in the comments. In the meantime, like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.